The huge doors of the meeting room opened with a soft hiss. John Blake walked out first, his face serious and his steps quick. He did not look back at the alien leaders sitting at the big round table. Behind him, other humans picked up their papers and computers and followed him out. The room was in the Galactic Council building on Zerion Prime. This was where the most powerful leaders in the galaxy met. The walls were made of crystal that changed colors with the light. The ceiling was so high that clouds formed near the top. But John Blake did not care about the beautiful room anymore. He had spent 3 months in this place and now he was done. Counselor Zixtar stood up from his chair. He was from the Narration species with purple skin and 6 long arms that moved like snakes. His 3 eyes grew wide as he watched the humans leave. "Wait! Stop!" Zixtar called out. "You cannot just walk away. We have been talking for 3 months." John Blake stopped at the door. He turned around slowly. His blue eyes looked tired but angry. "There is nothing more to talk about," he said. His voice was calm but cold, like ice. Behind Blake stood Admiral Lisa Morgan. She wore her dark blue military uniform with silver stars on the shoulders. Her short blonde hair was perfectly neat, even after sitting in meetings for 12 hours, every day. Next to her was Dr. Henry Chen, the lead scientist of the human team. His glasses sat crooked on his nose from rubbing his tired eyes so many times. Zixtar moved closer to them. His 6 arms waved in the air. "But we have not finished. There are still many points to discuss." Blake shook his head. "No, we are finished. The Empire wants us to give up our colonies on the edge of our space. You want to control where our ships can go. You want us to pay money that would destroy our economy. And you want us to share all our technology while giving us nothing in return." Supreme Overlord Krathmok spoke from his giant chair at the head of the table. He was the leader of the Galactic Empire, a creature that looked like a mix between a beetle and a dragon. His black shell reflected the lights, and his 4 red eyes stared at the humans. "These are reasonable demands. Every species that joins, the Empire must follow these rules." "We do not want to join your empire," Lisa Morgan said. Her voice was strong and clear. "We came here to make peace. We wanted to be neighbors, not servants." The other alien leaders in the room began to whisper to each other. There were 20 different species at the table. The Vorthon delegates, who looked like giant blue jellyfish floating in special tanks. The Creel warriors covered in red scales and sharp spikes. The small furry Pindari traders who controlled half the galaxy's commerce. They all watched as the humans prepared to leave. "This is madness," shouted Ambassador Thelmar of the Zorian Confederacy. He stood up, his green robes flowing around his thin body. "Humans, you must see reason. The Empire controls 10,000 star systems. Your species has only 30 colonies. How can you refuse?" Dr. Chen adjusted his glasses and spoke for the first time. "Because freedom is more important than safety. We learned this lesson on Earth many times. When someone offers you peace at the cost of your freedom, it is not really peace." Krathmox made a sound like grinding stones. It was how his species laughed. "Freedom? You speak of freedom? The Empire brings order to the galaxy. Before us there was only chaos and war. Species fought each other for resources. Pirates ruled the trade routes, planets died in nuclear fire. We ended all of that. By conquering everyone," Blake said. "By forcing them to obey your rules. By taking their resources and making them pay tribute. That is not order. That is slavery with a pretty name." The room fell silent. Nobody had ever spoken to the Supreme Overlord like this before. Some of the alien delegates looked shocked. Others seemed afraid. A few looked like they agreed with the humans but were too scared to say anything. Commander Veera Singh, the youngest member of the human team, stepped forward. She was only 30 years old, but had already fought in 2 wars. "We studied your history," she said. "Every species the Empire absorbed lost something. The Markab lost their art and music because it did not serve the Empire. The Zolonians lost their spiritual practices because the Empire called them inefficient. The Tarvek lost their democratic government because the Empire wanted direct control. Those changes were necessary for galactic harmony, Krathmox replied. His voice was getting louder, more angry. Blake walked back to the table and placed his hands on its surface. He leaned forward, looking directly at Krathmox. We humans have a saying, give me liberty, or give me death. We will not become another, conquered species in your empire. We will not give up our freedom for your version of peace. Zixtar's purple skin turned darker, a sign of frustration in his species. You are being foolish. Think of your children. Think of your future. Outside the Empire, you have no protection. The Skarn raiders will attack your trade ships. The Void Hunters will raid your colonies. Other species will see you as weak and alone. We will take our chances, Lisa Morgan said. She picked up her datapad and turned it off. We have survived on our own before. We will do it again. Krathmox stood up. When he rose to his full height, he was 3 times taller than any human. His shell made clicking sounds as he moved. If you leave these negotiations, there will be consequences. The Empire does not. Look kindly on those who reject our generous offers. Blake smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Is that a threat, Supreme Overlord? It is a statement of fact, Krathmox replied. The galaxy is a dangerous place. Without the Empire's protection, anything could happen to your small species. Dr. Chen packed his computer into his case. We humans have a long history, Supreme Overlord. We have faced threats before. We have been outnumbered before. We have been told we cannot win before. But we are still here. The human delegation moved toward the door as one group. Their footsteps echoed in the large room. The alien delegates watched them go, some with confusion, others with anger, and a few with something that might have been respect. This is your last chance, Krathmox called out. Stay, accept our terms, become part of something greater than yourselves. Blake stopped at the doorway one final time. He looked back at the assembled aliens. We already are part of something greater. It is called humanity, and we will never surrender it to anyone. With those words, the human delegation left the council chambers. The doors closed behind them with a soft hiss, leaving the alien leaders in stunned silence. Ambassador Thelmar was the first to speak. They will return. They must return. No species can stand alone against the might of the Empire. Counselor, Zixtar nodded his agreement. Yes, give them a few days to think about their situation. They will realize their mistake and come back to negotiate properly. But Supreme Overlord Krathmox was not so sure. He had lived for over 500 years. He had seen many species join the Empire, some willingly, some through force. He had never seen delegates walk away like this before. Perhaps, he said slowly, or perhaps we have made a mistake. These humans, they are different from the others. Different how? Asked General Vorgel, the Empire's military commander. He was a Creel warrior, covered in battle scars. Krathmox looked at the closed doors. They are not afraid. Every other species feared us, even if they hid it well. But these humans, they looked at me like equals, like they truly believe they can stand against us. Impossible, Vorgel scoffed. They have only been in space for 200 years. Their technology is primitive compared to ours. Their navy is tiny. Their colonies are scattered and weak. And yet they walked away, Krathmox said quietly. The council meeting broke up slowly. The delegates returned to their embassies to send reports back to their homeworlds. Within hours, news of the failed negotiations spread throughout the Empire. On 10,000 worlds, beings discussed what had happened. Most laughed at human stubbornness. Some worried about what it meant for galactic stability. A few, in secret, admired the humans for standing up to the Empire. In his private chambers that night, Supreme Overlord Krathmox studied the files on humanity again. He looked at their history, their wars, their achievements. Something bothered him, but he could not identify what it was. His advisor, a wise old Zilonian named Kriva, entered the room. You are troubled, Excellence? Yes, Krathmox admitted. These humans puzzle me. They must know they cannot win against us. Yet they walked away from our offer without hesitation. Kriva was silent for a moment. Then she spoke carefully. Perhaps, Excellence, they know something we do not. What could they possibly know? That some things are worth more than victory, Kriva said, and that sometimes the willingness to lose everything is the greatest strength of all. Krathmox dismissed his advisor and continued studying the files late into the night. Outside his window, the stars shone cold and distant. Somewhere among those stars, human ships were already moving, preparing for what would come next. The Galactic Empire had ruled for 1,000 years. It had never lost a war. It had never failed to absorb a species it wanted. But tonight, for the first time in centuries, Supreme Overlord Krathmox felt something he had not felt in a very long time. He felt uncertainty. The humans had walked away from the peace talks. Now the galaxy would learn what that really meant. 2 weeks passed after the humans left the peace talks. In the galaxy, everything seemed normal. Empire ships patrolled the trade routes. Merchant vessels carried goods between star systems. The news channels talked about other things. Most aliens had already forgotten about the failed negotiations with humanity. On the Empire capital world of Thrax, life continued as usual. Citizens went to work, children went to school, and the mighty warships of the Empire fleet orbited the planet like metal guardians. Supreme Overlord Krathmox had returned to his regular duties, though he sometimes still thought about the humans who had dared to walk away. But in human space, everything had changed. On Earth, in an underground bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, President Maria Johnson sat at the head of a long table. Around her were the most important leaders of humanity. Military commanders, scientists, industrial chiefs, and colony governors all watched large screens showing maps of human space. "Report," President Johnson said. Her voice was calm, but her brown eyes were focused and serious. General Frank Cooper stood up. He was a tall man with gray hair and deep lines on his face from years of military service. "Madam President, Operation Silent Thunder is ahead of schedule. All reserve forces have been activated. Every retired soldier has been called back to duty. Our total military personnel have increased from 2 million to 15 million in 14 days. The President nodded. "What about ship production?" Admiral Paula Reyes answered this question. She was a small woman, with black hair tied in a tight bun. Despite her size, she commanded respect from everyone in the room. All civilian shipyards have been converted to military production. The Mars orbital facilities are producing 1 destroyer every 18 hours. The Jupiter yards are completing a battle cruiser every 3 days. The asteroid belt factories are mass-producing fighters and drones. "How is this possible?" asked Governor Sam Taylor from New Texas Colony. "The Empire analysts said it would take us 50 years to build a fleet that size." Dr. Rachel Kim smiled. She was the head of the Advanced Technology Division. The Empire analysts were wrong. They based their estimates on their own building methods. They did not understand human engineering. "We have been preparing for this possibility for 20 years. Every civilian ship was designed to be quickly converted to military use. Every factory was built with hidden capabilities. Every colony has underground military facilities." On the screen, numbers appeared showing the growing human fleet. In just 2 weeks, humanity had built more warships than they had in the previous decade. But these were not just any warships. They were built with new technology that the Empire knew nothing about. Captain Jack Miller stood on the bridge of the newly completed battleship Thunderstrike. Through the windows, he could see dozens of other ships being fitted with weapons and shields. The shipyard around Saturn was working day and night. Welding torches flashed like stars as workers assembled the massive vessels. "Captain, all systems are online," reported Lieutenant Emma Davis from her station. "The new quantum drives are testing perfectly. We can jump twice as far as Empire ships and 3 times as fast." Miller nodded. He was a veteran pilot who had fought pirates in the outer colonies. Now he commanded one of humanity's newest and most powerful warships. "What about the ghost field generators?" "Working perfectly, sir," said Chief Engineer Paul Kim. "When activated, we become invisible to all Empire sensors. They will not see us coming. Across human space, similar scenes played out. On Mars, massive factories that once made farming equipment now produced plasma cannons. On Europa, research stations that studied alien life now developed new weapons. On Titan, mining facilities dug deeper, pulling out rare metals needed for advanced ship armor. The most secret facility was hidden in an asteroid called Prometheus. Here, Dr. Alan Wright led a team of humanity's best scientists. They worked on something that would change space warfare forever. "Status report on Project Starfall," Wright said to his team. Dr. Sarah Park looked up from her computer. "The prototypes are complete. We have successfully created weapons that can bypass Empire shield technology. Their ships have no defense against our new torpedoes." Wright smiled. This was the breakthrough they needed. The Empire's shields had made their ships almost invincible for 1,000 years. Now humanity had found a way around them. In homes across Earth and the colonies, families said goodbye to fathers, mothers, sons, and daughters who joined the military. Children drew pictures of spaceships to send to their parents in service. Communities organized to support the war effort. Factories ran 24 hours a day. Everyone knew that humanity faced its greatest challenge, but there was no fear. Instead, there was determination. On the colony world of New Hope, 10-year-old Tony Martinez watched his mother put on her pilot uniform. "Why do you have to go, Mom?" he asked. Captain Angela Martinez knelt down to look her son in the eye. "Because sometimes we have to fight for our freedom, Tony. The Empire wants to control us. They want to tell us how to live. But humans do not like being controlled. We would rather fight than give up our freedom." "Will you come back?" Tony asked, quietly. "I will do everything I can to come back," his mother said. "And when I do, you will be living in a galaxy where humans are free." In space, the human fleet grew larger every day. But they stayed hidden. Ships used new stealth technology to avoid Empire patrols. Communications used quantum encryption that the Empire could not break. Supply convoys traveled through areas of space that the Empire considered empty and worthless. Admiral Carl Matthews stood on the command deck of the dreadnought Defiance. He watched a holographic display showing the positions of all human forces. Green dots represented human ships. Red dots showed known Empire positions. "Sir, the fleet is at 70% of planned strength," reported Commander Alice Johnson. "We will reach full strength in 10 days. Matthews nodded. He was an old warrior who had fought in the colonial defense wars 30 years ago. He knew that numbers were not everything in war. What about training? "All crews are running combat simulations every day. The new recruits are learning fast. Morale is high." "Good. The Empire thinks we are weak. They think we need decades to prepare for war. They do not understand humans." Matthews looked at the red dots on the display. Each one represented an Empire base or fleet. "They will learn." On Earth, President Johnson met with representatives from the colony worlds. The meeting was held in a secure facility deep underground. No Empire spies could listen to their plans. "Are all colonies ready?" the president asked. Governor Lisa Chen from the Centauri colonies spoke first. "Yes, Madam President. All our people support the war effort. Every man and woman who can fight has volunteered. Our factories are producing weapons and equipment. Our children are learning to be pilots and engineers." Other governors gave similar reports. Every human world was united. There were no protests against the war. No one suggested returning to negotiations. The Empire's demands had insulted human pride. Now humanity would show the galaxy what that meant. In secret research facilities, scientists worked on even more advanced weapons. Dr. Michael Brown led a team studying captured Empire technology. They had gotten this technology through careful spy work over many years. "We have cracked their shield frequencies," Brown reported to General Cooper. "We know exactly how their defenses work. Our new weapons will cut through them like paper." Cooper smiled. "Excellent. The Empire's greatest advantage is about to become useless." The transformation of human society was complete. A species that the Empire considered young and weak had become a military power in just 2 weeks. Factories that made toys now made missiles. Ships that carried passengers now carried soldiers. Scientists who studied stars now designed weapons. But the most important change was in the hearts of the people. Humans had tried peace. They had offered friendship to the Empire. They had asked for fair treatment and respect. The Empire had answered with demands for surrender. Now humanity would give a different answer. Captain Susan Lee commanded a stealth reconnaissance ship near the border of Empire space. Her mission was to watch and report Empire movements. Through powerful sensors, she observed Empire patrol ships following their regular routes. The Empire forces showed no signs of increased alert. They had no idea what was coming. "They still think we are at the negotiating table," her first officer, Lieutenant Bob Taylor, said. Lee shook her head. "No, they think we are cowering in fear, trying to decide whether to accept their terms. They cannot imagine that we are preparing for war." Back on Earth, children played war games in the streets. They pretended to be space pilots fighting the evil Empire. Their parents watched with mixed feelings of pride and worry. Everyone understood that real war was coming, but no one suggested avoiding it. In the Mars Military Academy, young men and women trained harder than ever before. They learned to fly fighters, operate weapon systems, and work together as crews. Instructor David White, a veteran pilot, pushed them to their limits. "The Empire has been fighting wars for 1,000 years, he told his students. But they have been fighting weak opponents who were already half defeated. They have never fought humans. They have never fought a species that values freedom more than life." As the second week ended, humanity was ready. The Kepler 452 system was quiet in the early morning hours. The Empire's massive fortress floated in space like a metal mountain. Its shields glowed blue in the darkness. 50 Empire warships patrolled around it in perfect formation. This was one of the Empire's strongest border defenses. Inside the Fortress Command Center, Commander Vexilor of the Empire Fleet was drinking his morning tea. He was a Kandorian, with gray skin and 4 arms. He had served the Empire for 200 years, and had never lost a battle. "Any activity on the borders?" he asked his sensor officer. "Nothing unusual, Commander," replied Lieutenant Zektar. "Some merchant traffic in Sector 5. A few mining ships in the asteroid belt. No military vessels detected." Vexilor nodded and went back to his tea. He did not know that death was already coming for him. 3 light-years away, the human fleet waited in the darkness of deep space. Admiral Carl Matthews stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Defiance. Around his ship, 500 human vessels held position. Battleships, cruisers, destroyers, and carriers full of fighters. The largest human fleet ever assembled. "All ships, report ready," said Commander Alice Johnson. Matthews looked at the tactical display. Green dots showed his fleet. 1 red dot showed the Empire fortress. "Begin Operation Dawn Strike," he ordered. In the fighter bays of the carrier Independence, Commander Jack Turner sat in his cockpit. His squadron of 30 stealth fighters was ready to launch. He checked his weapons one last time. The new shield-piercing torpedoes were loaded. His pilots were the best humanity had. "Blue Squadron, this is Blue Leader," Turner said into his radio. "Remember the plan. We go in fast and silent. Hit the shield generators first, then the weapons platforms. Do not give them time to react." "Copy that, Blue Leader," came the replies from his pilots. The small stealth fighters launched first. They were painted black and used the new ghost field technology. No Empire sensor could detect them. They slipped through space like shadows, heading for the fortress. Behind them, the main fleet began to move, but they stayed in hyperspace, waiting for the signal. Back at the fortress, Commander Vexilor finished his tea. He was thinking about his vacation next month when alarms suddenly screamed through the command center. "What is happening?" he shouted. "Unknown contacts," the sensor officer yelled. "Multiple small craft approaching at high speed. They appeared from nowhere." Vexilor ran to the tactical display. He saw dozens of red dots racing toward his fortress. "Impossible! Where did they come from? Raise shields! Alert all ships!" But it was too late. Jack Turner's fighter wing struck like lightning. The new torpedoes flew from their launch tubes and hit the fortress shields. Instead of exploding against the energy barrier, they passed right through. The Empire's greatest, Defense was useless. Direct hits, Turner shouted. All torpedoes are through the shields. The torpedoes found their targets. Shield generators exploded in brilliant flashes. Weapon platforms shattered into pieces. The fortress's main power plant took 3 hits and began to overload. Their shields are down, reported Blue 6. Repeat, fortress shields are down. That was the signal the main fleet was waiting for. Admiral Matthews gave the order. All ships jump to attack positions, begin bombardment. Space itself seemed to tear open as 500 human ships dropped out of hyperspace. They appeared in perfect attack formation around the fortress. The Empire ships, still trying to understand what was happening, found themselves surrounded. Open. Fire, Matthews ordered calmly. The human fleet unleashed hell. Plasma cannons, railguns, and missile batteries fired as one. The fortress, without its shields, took hit after hit. Explosions ripped through its hull. Whole sections broke away and spun into space. Commander Vexilor watched his fortress die. Half his command center was gone. Fires burned everywhere. Most of his crew was dead. He tried to send a distress signal, but the communications array was destroyed. The Empire warships tried to fight back. They formed defensive lines and returned fire. But the human ships were faster, better armed, and used tactics the Empire had never seen. Captain Amy Rodriguez commanded the cruiser Lightning Strike. Her ship danced through enemy fire, impossible to hit. Target the command ship, she ordered. Fire main guns. The Empire flagship, a massive dreadnought twice the size of any human ship, took 6 direct hits. Its shields flickered and died. Secondary explosions tore through its hull. In space, fighters swarmed everywhere. Human pilots flew like madmen, making impossible maneuvers. Empire fighters, used to formal combat patterns, could not match their wild tactics. Lieutenant Kevin Park led Red Squadron in an attack on an Empire carrier. Follow me in. Hit their launch bays. The human fighters dove straight at the enemy ship, firing as they came. The carrier's point defense guns tried to track them but could not keep up. Torpedoes slammed into the launch bays, setting off a chain reaction that tore the ship in half. The battle was becoming a slaughter. Empire ships burned and exploded. Escape pods filled space as alien crews abandoned their dying vessels. But the humans did not target the escape pods. They were warriors, not murderers. On the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral Matthews watched the tactical display. More than half the Empire fleet was destroyed. The fortress was a burning wreck. The battle was won. Sir, the remaining Empire ships are trying to retreat, reported the tactical officer. Matthews thought for a moment. Part of him wanted to destroy them all. But that was not the message he wanted to send. Let them go, he ordered. But target their hyperdrives. They will have to limp home on sublight engines. Precise shots disabled the fleeing ships faster than light drives. They could still fly, but it would take them months to reach the nearest Empire base. Plenty of time to spread the word about what had happened. The battle was over in less than an hour. The impregnable fortress was rubble. 30 Empire warships were destroyed, 20 more crippled. The human fleet had lost only 3 fighters and suffered minor damage to a few ships. Signal all ships, Matthews ordered. Begin rescue operations. Pick up any Empire survivors from the wreckage. This surprised his officers. Sir? Commander, Johnson asked. We are not like them, Matthews explained. We fight for freedom, not conquest. Treat prisoners well. Let them see that humans are civilized. They will carry that message back to their empire. Over the next hours, human ships rescued thousands of Empire personnel from escape pods and wrecked ships. The aliens expected to be killed or tortured. Instead, they received medical care, food, and decent quarters. Commander Vexilor was pulled from his escape pod by the crew of a human destroyer. He fully expected execution. Instead, he found himself in the ship's medical bay being treated for his injuries. Captain Bob Miller of the destroyer visited him. Commander, your injuries are not serious. You will recover fully. Vexilor could not understand. Why? Why help me? I am your enemy. Miller smiled sadly. You were following orders. The real enemy is the system that sent you here. We want you to live. We want you to go home and tell them what happened. Tell them that humanity offered peace and the Empire chose war. As the human fleet prepared to leave, they left a message beacon in the ruins of the fortress. The message was simple. The Galactic Empire demanded humanity's surrender. This is our answer. We asked for peace. You chose war. Now you will face the consequences. United Earth Government. Admiral Matthews stood on his bridge, looking at the stars. The first blow had been struck. The Empire would know that humanity was not weak. But this was just the beginning. Signal the fleet, he ordered. Set course for the next target. The Empire has 12 fortress systems along our border. By next week, they will have none. Across human space, news of the victory spread quickly. People celebrated in the streets. Children waved flags. But the leaders knew this was only the first step in a long war. President Maria Johnson addressed humanity from Earth. Today, our forces struck the first blow for human freedom. The Empire thought we were weak. They were wrong. We do not seek conquest. We do not want to rule others, we want only to be free. But if the Empire insists on war, we will give them a war they will never forget. In the Empire capital, Supreme Overlord Krathmox received the news of Kepler 452's destruction with disbelief. 1 fortress and 50 warships destroyed? By humans? This is impossible. Excellence, the reports are confirmed, said General Vorgel. The humans used unknown weapons. Their ships were invisible to our sensors. Their tactics were unusual. Krathmox stood up, his shell clicking with anger. Mobilize the Grand Fleet. We will crush these upstart humans. They will learn the price of defying the Empire. But in secret meetings across the Empire, other species whispered. The humans had done the impossible. They had defeated an Empire fortress. For the first time in 1,000 years, someone had successfully challenged the Empire's might. On the prison world of Thanatos, resistance leader Kretak of the Zilonians heard the news from a sympathetic guard. A smile crossed his face. So it begins, he whispered. The humans have shown it can be done. The Empire can be defeated. The war had started. The first battle was won, but everyone knew harder fights were coming. The Empire would strike back with all its power. As the human fleet moved toward its next target, Jack Turner sat in his fighter cockpit. He thought about the battle, about the Empire pilots he had killed. News of Kepler 452's destruction spread through the galaxy like wildfire. On 10,000 worlds, beings who had never questioned the Empire's power suddenly began to wonder. Could the mighty Galactic Empire actually be defeated? On the desert, world of Scalos, home to the reptilian Scalosi people, crowds gathered in the markets to discuss the news. The Scalosi had been conquered by the Empire 300 years ago. They still remembered their old freedom. The humans destroyed a fortress? Asked old Sekvar, his scales turning blue with excitement. An Empire fortress? Not just the fortress, said his nephew Tekmar. They destroyed 30 warships and sent 20 more running home without their hyperdrives. The Empire has not lost a battle in 500 years. On the water world of Aquaria, the dolphin-like Aquarians held emergency meetings in their underwater cities. They had submitted to the Empire peacefully, choosing survival over destruction. Now they questioned that choice. Perhaps we were wrong, said Elder Deepak, her sonar clicking thoughtfully. Perhaps resistance is possible. These humans have shown that the Empire is not invincible. Meanwhile, human fleets appeared throughout Empire space like ghosts. They struck military targets with surgical precision. Weapons depots exploded. Supply bases burned. Communication relays went silent. But human forces never attacked civilian targets. They never bombarded cities or destroyed hospitals. They fought only the Empire's military. Admiral Paula Reyes led the second major assault. Her fleet hit the Empire's main shipyards at Vorta 6. These shipyards built the Empire's largest warships. In 1 hour of fierce fighting, humanity reduced them to scrap metal. Target only military construction, Reyes ordered. "Leave the civilian facilities alone. We are liberators, not conquerors." The workers at the shipyards, mostly enslaved Vorthon, engineers watched in amazement as human marines freed them from their chains. Captain Greg Wilson led the ground assault team. "You are free," Wilson told the shocked Vorthons. "Go home to your families. Tell them that humanity fights for freedom, ours and yours." The freed workers could not believe it. The Empire had forced them to build warships for 50 years. Now these strange humans were setting them free and giving them food and medical care. In the Empire's capital city on Thrax, panic began to spread. Supreme Overlord Krathmox called emergency meetings every day. His military commanders had no good news. "How?" Krathmox demanded. "How are they everywhere at once? How do they know where to strike?" General Vorgul looked at his tactical displays with confusion. "Excellence. Their ships appear from nowhere. Our sensors cannot track them. They hit our weak points as if they know our entire defense grid, and their weapons, our shields are useless against them. Where is our intelligence? Where are our spies?" Krathmox's voice shook the council chamber. Intelligence Director Thekvel lowered his head. "Excellence. We have tried to place agents in human space. They all disappeared. The human security is unlike anything we have seen. Their communication codes change every hour. Their quantum encryption is unbreakable. What the Empire did not know is that humanity had been preparing for this war for decades. Human intelligence services had placed agents throughout the Empire long ago. These agents were not humans, but members of oppressed species who wanted freedom. They sent information back to Earth through hidden channels. On the mining world of Korvax, resistance leader Grixton received a coded message. He was a Tarvek, a species enslaved by the Empire for their strength and endurance. The message was simple: "The time has come. Strike at dawn." That night, across the planet, Tarvek miners rose up against their Empire guards. They had hidden weapons in the deep mines. When the sun rose, the Tarvek flag flew over the capital city. Korvax was free. Similar uprisings began on dozens of worlds. The Zilonians launched guerrilla attacks on Empire bases. The Markab sabotaged power plants and communication systems. The Pindari merchants suddenly refused to trade with Empire forces. On the human colony of New Texas, Governor Sam Williams received unexpected visitors. A delegation of alien species had traveled in secret to reach human space. They represented 7 different oppressed species. Ambassador Zelix of the Zilonians spoke for the group. He was tall and thin, with silver skin and large eyes. "We come, seeking alliance with humanity. For centuries we have suffered under the Empire. We thought resistance was impossible. You have shown us we were wrong." Williams welcomed them warmly. "Humanity believes in freedom for all beings. We fight not just for ourselves, but for every species under Empire rule. Your people are welcome to join us." The meeting lasted 3 days. By the end, a formal alliance was signed. The Free Species Coalition was born. Human technology was shared with member species. Training began for alien soldiers in human tactics. The war against the Empire was no longer just humanity's fight. Back on Earth, President Maria Johnson met with her advisors. The war was going better than expected, but she knew harder times were coming. "The Empire will counterattack soon," she said. "They must. Their entire system depends on fear. If species stop fearing them, their empire collapses." General Frank Cooper nodded. "Our intelligence suggests they are massing their grand fleet, over 1,000 warships. They plan to strike directly at Earth." Johnson smiled. "Let them come. We have surprises waiting." Deep in space at the secret research station, Dr. Alan Wright's team had completed their newest weapon. It was called the Nova Lance, a beam weapon that could crack a moon in half. Only 3 human dreadnoughts were large enough to carry it. "Testing complete," Wright reported. "The weapon performs beyond specifications. A single shot can destroy an Empire dreadnought. 3 shots can shatter a battle station." As word of human victories spread, more species joined the rebellion. The Empire found itself fighting on dozens of fronts. Patrol ships were ambushed. Supply convoys disappeared. Loyal Empire world suddenly declared independence. On the industrial world of Mechanus, the robot workers gained self-awareness with help from human computer experts. They immediately joined the coalition. Their factories, which had produced Empire weapons, now made ships for the resistance. Captain Angela Martinez led a raid on an Empire prison colony. Thousands of political prisoners were freed. Among them were scientists, artists, and leaders from dozens of species. All had been imprisoned for opposing the Empire. "Welcome to freedom," Martinez told them. "The galaxy is changing. The Empire's time is ending." The freed prisoners wept with joy. Many immediately volunteered to join the resistance. Their knowledge and skills would help the coalition grow stronger. In the Empire Council chambers, the mood was dark. Reports came in every hour of new defeats, new rebellions, new disasters. "The Skarn raiders have joined the humans," reported Admiral Kextor. "The Void Hunters are attacking our convoys. Even the neutral Ethereal Collective is considering joining the coalition." Krathmox slammed his claws on the table. "Enough! We will end this rebellion once and for all. Prepare the Grand Fleet. We strike at Earth itself. When humanity falls, the other species will submit again." But the Empire did not understand how much had changed. This was not a simple rebellion, to be crushed. This was a revolution that had spread across the galaxy. Species that had been enemies now fought side by side. Worlds that had accepted slavery now demanded freedom. On the fortress world of Bastion, the last Empire stronghold in the Outer Rim, Commander Dexlor watched his sensors. He commanded 500 warships, the largest Empire fleet outside the core worlds. His orders were to hold the line against human expansion. Then his sensors detected something impossible. Over 2,000 ships dropping out of hyperspace. Half were human. Half were from species the Empire had conquered. The Free Species Coalition had assembled its combined fleet. Admiral Carl Matthews commanded from the human dreadnought Defiance. Beside him stood commanders from 7 different species. Together they gave the order to attack. The Battle of Bastion lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Empire fleet was destroyed. Commander Dexlor surrendered his fortress intact. He had seen the writing on the wall. "The Empire is finished," Dexlor told Matthews. "We ruled through fear and force. You offer hope and freedom. The galaxy has chosen." As news of Bastion's fall reached the Empire capital, even loyal species began to question their allegiance. The governor of the Creel warrior clan sent a message to his home world. "Consider carefully our position. The humans fight with honor. The Empire's time may be ending." In human space, the mood was confident but cautious. The coalition grew stronger every day. New weapons came online. More species joined the cause. But everyone knew the final battle was coming. The Empire would throw everything into one last attack on Earth. The fate of the galaxy would be decided in that battle. Freedom or slavery. Hope or fear. The future hung in the balance. As the stars watched, 2 great fleets prepared for the confrontation that would decide the destiny of 1,000 species. The age of empires was ending. The age of freedom was beginning. But first, there would be war. 6 months had passed since humanity walked out of the peace talks. The galaxy had transformed beyond recognition. The galactic empire that had ruled for 1,000 years was dying. Its economy crashed as trade routes closed. Its military crumbled as species deserted. Its authority vanished as world after world declared independence. The final battle came at Earth. Supreme Overlord Krathmox himself led the Grand Fleet. 1,000 Empire warships, the largest fleet ever assembled, dropped out of hyperspace, at the edge of human space. Krathmox stood on the bridge of his super dreadnought, the Pride of Empire, certain of victory. "Today we end this rebellion," he announced to his fleet. "Today humanity learns the price of defiance." But as the Empire fleet advanced, space itself seemed to come alive. Ships appeared from nowhere. Not just human ships, but vessels from 30 different species. The Free Species Coalition had gathered its entire force to defend Earth. Admiral Carl Matthews commanded the defense from the dreadnought Defiance. Beside him stood commanders from every coalition species. The Zelonian Admiral Kretuk, the Skolosi General Sekmar, the Markab Fleetmaster Dexnu, and many others. "All ships, hold the line," Matthews ordered. "Today we fight for freedom. Today we end the Age of Empires." The battle was beyond anything in galactic history. 3,000 ships clashed in space around Earth. Weapons fire lit up the darkness. Fighters swarmed like angry insects. Capital ships exchanged broadsides that shook space itself. The Empire fought with desperate fury. They had superior numbers in heavy ships. Their crews were experienced. Their weapons were powerful. But they faced something they had never encountered before: united species fighting for freedom. Human tactics confused the Empire commanders. Ships attacked from impossible angles. Fighters flew suicide runs into enemy formations. Smaller vessels used hit-and-run tactics that larger Empire ships could not counter. Captain Amy Rodriguez led her squadron in a desperate attack on the Empire flagship. "All ships follow my lead. We're going straight down their throat." Her ships punched through the Empire formation, taking terrible damage but pressing forward. They reached the Pride of Empire and unleashed their special weapons: the new shield-piercing torpedoes, the quantum disruptors, the gravity bombs. The flagship's defenses crumbled. In the fighter battle, Commander Jack Turner led the largest dogfight in history. 10,000 small craft wheeled and spun in deadly dances. Turner's squadron punched through enemy formations again and again. "Blue Squadron on me," Turner called. "We're hitting their carrier." The human fighters, supported by Scalossi interceptors and Markab bombers, broke through the defensive screen. They reached the Empire's largest carrier and planted bombs in its launch base. The explosion chain reacted through the ship, turning it into a brief new sun. But the battle's turning point came from an unexpected source. The 3 human dreadnoughts equipped with Novalance weapons had stayed back, waiting. Now Admiral Matthews gave the order: Novalance batteries, target their command ships. Fire. 3 beams of impossible brightness lanced across space. They struck 3 Empire dreadnoughts. The ships did not explode. They simply ceased to exist, transformed into expanding clouds of atoms. The Empire fleet wavered. They had never seen such weapons. Fear spread through their ranks. Then something extraordinary happened. Empire ships began to switch sides. The Creole warrior clans who had served the Empire for centuries suddenly turned their guns on their former masters. Their commander broadcast on all frequencies: "The Creole fight for honor. There is no honor in slavery. We stand with the free species." Other Empire vessels followed. The Vorthon technical ships, crewed by former slaves, disabled Empire vessels instead of fighting the coalition. Pindari supply ships refused to refuel Empire warships. The battle became a rout. Krathmox watched his fleet disintegrate. His super dreadnought shook under repeated hits. Half his bridge was destroyed. Most of his staff was dead. The Pride of Empire was burning. "Excellence, we must retreat," his last admiral begged. "No," Krathmox said quietly. "There is nowhere to retreat to. The Empire is finished." He looked at the tactical display. Coalition forces surrounded his remaining ships. The battle was lost. The war was lost. Everything was lost. "Send a message to the human admiral," Krathmox ordered. "We surrender." The guns fell silent. After 6 hours of brutal combat, the Battle of Earth was over. The Empire had lost 700 ships. The Coalition had lost 300, but the numbers were less important than the result. The Galactic Empire had surrendered. 2 days later, in the same council chambers on Zerion Prime where it all began, Krathmox sat across from Ambassador John Blake. The alien who had once stood proud and demanding now sat defeated and exhausted. "Ambassador Blake," Krathmox said slowly, "I was wrong. You tried to tell us, we would not listen. Now I ask, what are your terms?" Blake looked at the fallen overlord. 6 months ago, this being had demanded humanity's surrender. Now their positions were reversed. But Blake felt no joy in victory, only relief that the killing was over. "Our terms are simple," Blake said. "The Empire will be dissolved. All species will have self-determination. A new galactic federation will be formed with equal representation for all members. No species will rule over another. Trade will be free. Movement will be unrestricted. And a peacekeeping force will ensure this never happens again. Krathmox listened in silence. These terms were more generous than he expected. And what of the Empire's leadership? What of me? There will be trials for war crimes, Blake replied. Those who ordered genocides and atrocities will face justice, but most will be granted amnesty. The galaxy needs healing, not vengeance. Admiral Lisa Morgan stood beside Blake. The peacekeeping force will be made up of all species, but humanity will maintain a rapid response fleet. We will not allow another empire to rise. The documents were prepared. One by one, representatives of former Empire species signed the new galactic charter. The Zilonians, the Skolosi, the Markab, the Tarvek, the Vorthons, even the Creel. Each signature was a vote for freedom. As Krathmox signed the surrender documents, he looked at Blake. I must ask, how? How did your species do this? You had inferior numbers, less advanced technology, no experience in galactic warfare. Blake smiled sadly. You gave us no choice. You demanded our freedom. There is nothing more dangerous than humans fighting for their freedom. We would rather die standing than live kneeling. Captain Amy Rodriguez whispered to Admiral Morgan. Think they finally learned their lesson? Morgan nodded. They learned what happens when humanity chooses war. They learned that our greatest strength isn't our weapons or our ships. It's our determination to be free. In the months that followed, the galaxy rebuilt. Former Empire bases became Federation outposts. Enslaved species returned to their homeworlds. Trade routes reopened under fair agreements. The Galactic Federation Parliament met for the first time with representatives from all species. President Maria Johnson of Earth gave the opening address. We gather not as conquerors and conquered, but as equals. The age of empires is over. The age of cooperation begins. Together we will build a galaxy where every being can reach for the stars. On the prison world where he awaited trial, Krathmox received a visitor. It was Captain Susan Lee, the human officer who had commanded a scout ship during the war. Why do you visit me? Krathmox asked. To bring you news, Lee said. Your species has joined the Federation. Your world is free. Your people are choosing their own path. Krathmox was quiet for a long moment. And why tell me this? Because you need to understand what you nearly destroyed, Lee explained. Freedom, hope, the right to choose. These things are worth more than any empire. As the years passed, the story spread throughout the galaxy. How humanity, a young species barely out of their home system, had brought down the greatest empire in history. How they had fought not for conquest but for freedom. How they had united the galaxy's species in common cause. In schools across 1,000 worlds, children learned the lesson. When humans speak of peace, they speak from strength. When they offer friendship, they mean it. When they fight for principle. And when they win, they build something better. Deep in human space, in a quiet memorial, the names of those who died in the war were carved in stone. Humans and aliens alike. At the base was written, they died so that freedom could live. Let the galaxy never forget. And the galaxy never did.